I, the blazing life of divine wisdom, I set alight the beauty of the plains. I radiate the waters. I glow in the sun and the moon and the stars. With wisdom I order all things right. I beautify the earth. I am the breeze that nurtures all things green. I am the rain coming from the dew that makes the fields laugh with the pleasures of life. I call up tears the perfume of holy work. I am the yearning for good. Words of Hildegard of Bingen. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to Cross Street Chapel's Sunday service. I'm grateful for your presence here, both in person as well as online. And I hope that whatever it is that you've come seeking in this space, be it a space for tears and sadness, and to share that in this community, be it a space for joy and laughter. Perhaps you've come just seeking a few words of wisdom, or maybe possibly just the chance to rest with the divine. Whatever it is that you have come seeking here, I hope it will be found, as well as a warm community. Today's service is possibly a little truncated. It is our annual general meeting afterwards, for which everyone is invited. There's great food, great drink, and hopefully a few great words about the past year for the chapel and the year to come. It's always one of my favorite services, this one. We come into a time of worship as well with the words of Claire McBee. Unseen God, you call us to meet you in the gurgle of a baby, in the shout of children playing, in the smile of a grandparent. You call us to meet you in the kindness offered to a stranger, in the welcome for a refugee, in the coffee for a neighbor. You call us to meet you in the comfort of familiar friendship, in the joy of new meeting, in the desire for connection. You call us to meet you here today with these people, and here today in this group of people, we see your face. Amen. Please join with me in singing our first hymn in the Purple Book, number 30. Each seeking faith is seeking light. Hymn number 30. We turn now to a time of prayer with these words of Sue Ayer. Spirit of life and love, we have gathered here in search of answers to hard questions. We have come in search of understanding, in search of community. We have come in search of hope and healing. Let this be a place not only of searching, but of discovery. Let this be a place not only of learning, but of wisdom. Let this be a place not only of meeting, but of connection. And let this place be where healing fosters giving and hope fosters service. This is our prayer, that we may create here a circle of love, ever expanding, ever growing, as we seek to know you, the source of our being. Amen. Amen. And please recite with me our covenant, which you'll find in your order of worship and will be online for those following online. We gather here in sacred fellowship to witness the fullness of our lives and all life, to hold and be held, tell stories and listen, to be renewed and renew the world. We speak with care and patience. We act with gentleness and compassion. We forgive each other and ourselves. In faith that we build beloved community, we renew our covenant today. Our first reading comes from V. Emil Gudmundsson. What we are, we have reached because of other people's planting. The thoughts, the values, the ideals, and the feelings we possess are articulate because we have been the recipients of knowledge, recipients of kindness, of love and understanding. And above all, the mystery that we call life, we owe to a presence yet unknown, yet still very near to us. For these gifts, not our own, we give thanks. And now, may we have faith in life to do wise planting, that the generations to come may reap even more abundantly than we. May we be reminded of the wise ones of old, who admonished, if you plan for 1 year, plant grain. If you plan for 10 years, plant trees. If you plan for centuries, plant souls. May we be bold in bringing to fruition the golden dreams of human kinship and justice. This we ask, that the fields of promise become fields of reality. Emil Gudmundsson. So you now have a chance to share your fields of promise and your fields of reality, your joys and your sorrows, your trials and your triumphs. If you want to share these publicly, please come forward and light a candle. If you have a few words to say, please, if you have a few words to say, we have a roving microphone for you to speak into to make sure that those listening online will be able to participate. And if you are online, please write into the chat box and I will share your joy or your sorrow or whatever hope or dream you might have with the wider community. You're invited, of course, to light a candle in silence. And as always, if you prefer to hold your lives in your heart and keeping it private, know that your presence here is enough. So we continue to light a candle of prayer for all those affected by the war in Ukraine.
I light this candle in the spirit of unity for all living beings. I release all my joys and sorrows in the hope of encountering new experiences. Unity.
I'm shocked to see in Central Europe this Nazi playbook, swastikas, stage rallies, elimination of free media, brainwashing of populations, mass refugees, levelling of cities by bombs and shells, including civilian infrastructure, denial of food, water, heat, electricity to people cowering in bomb shelters, free from safe evacuation, the kidnapping and cold blood killing of civilians in cars and on streets, the removal of phone evidence. I light this candle for peace, for empathy, and wise and courageous intervention by good people to protect values of freedom.
I'm lighting this candle for everyone here and to acknowledge and thank everyone for the warm welcome that I've received since I started coming here, which is quite a few weeks ago now. So for everyone, thank you.
So today would have been my dad's birthday, so I light a candle for him.
For all those joys and sorrows here spoken, and those that remain silently in our hearts. Please join with me in returning to our hymn books for hymn number 204, Shelley Jackson Denham's When I Am Frightened, Will You Reassure Me? Hymn number 204. Our next reading comes from the Reverend Alea Kemmler, minister of the First Parish Church of Groton in Massachusetts. And as you will see in your order of worship, it's called The Church Where Everything Goes Wrong. 6 weeks into the church year, I have realized that I am the minister of a church where things usually go wrong. This morning, the copy machine jams repeatedly. The bulletin describing the order of worship has been copied with the second page first and also upside down. No one has remembered to turn on the lights in the sanctuary before the service, so it is dark because it is raining outside. The microphone is buzzing and lets out a painful, high-pitched squeal which makes people wince. We have just started the service when someone runs up with a bunch of flowers for the altar, just as someone else runs in with the version of silk arrangements that we keep for the mornings when no one brings real flowers. Some of you are laughing a bit too hard at some of these. There is laughter as the two flower bearers meet at the altar. They decide on the real flowers and things settle down for a while until a baby starts crying, which sets off another baby crying. I try to speak over the wailing as their fathers hustle them down the aisle and try to distract them in the back. Usually, I love watching the tall, gentle fathers who bounce their babies in backpacks at the rear of the sanctuary. But today I am annoyed because I want to be quiet and holy and lovely, and things are definitely not shaping up that way. The woman who is helping with worship gets up and, instead of giving the announcements, introduces the candle lighting time, which comes later. People call out, "Not yet!" and more laughter. The organist starts playing the wrong hymn, and a couple of choir members yell over the din for him to stop. A few minutes later, during the period for prayerful silence, he accidentally falls onto the keyboard, causing the organ to emit a horrible gassy noise, shrieks and snorts of laughter. All pretense of Sunday morning decorum is lost, and something inside me, some furious, bossy desire to have my worship service go according to my plan, finally slides free, and I can laugh with them. This will be the first of many times that I laugh at Sunday morning details gone awry. It is also the first of many times that I imagine that God is watching, looking up or down or over or out at us from wherever God sits on Sunday mornings, slightly amazed and maybe at a loss for words, because we, God's people, are so funny and wonderful and odd all at the same time. In moments like these, I imagine God as a sturdy old woman with her hands on her hips, or perhaps as a rabbi pulling on his long white beard. I imagine a God shaking his or her head and saying, "What in the world are they doing over there? This is what they call church? What were they thinking?" But I also imagine a God who is touched and maybe a little honored by our efforts, however halting, to worship and give praise. I imagine a God who is moved by our attempts to care for one another and to name the things that we name as holy. There is a warmth in this congregation that is new to me, a simple friendliness that shines through the fumblings and failures, a love that makes the ragged edges smooth. I have always wanted to believe, really believe, that our mistakes aren't the most important parts of us. I have always wanted to believe that kindness and compassion matter more than anything. I sense I can learn this here. The Church Where Everything Goes Wrong, by Alea Kemmler. So let us return to a time of prayer. Our meeting is a blessed convergence. Amongst all the chance and challenge that time has brought, not only in the past year, but in years past, that we should meet together here now is a blessing. Envelop us in holy love, whose downy embrace covers our wounds. Hold us tight against the storms that rage past, threatening to dismantle systems of assurances and assumptions. And if they do, protect us long enough for the sun to return, revealing that although what we consider solid was not, the beauty of the earth remains. The compassion of the people remains. And the hope remains. If we give up green pastures for the arid desert, and our cloaks become necessary, let us find clothing that suits our environment, and recognize the earth as sacred. Deserts are needed just as much as the verdant field. Winter is needed just as much as spring. Though, of course, we do welcome the spring, the greenery, the rebirth of life around us. We long to be part of it. So may we celebrate when it is within us. May we be patient when it is around us. May we take hold of all who know not of its presence, those for whom the earth lays ashen, bleak, devoid of life. May we be their comfort in times of distress. May we, when in distress, find comfort. Amen. So we enter into a period of silence for reflection, meditation, contemplation, and personal prayer. Thank you, Catherine. We come now to our next hymn, again in the Purple Book, as they all are today, number 82, Joyful is the Dark. Now please note, the first verse is actually with the music, and then the second verse is on the page opposite. And there's 5 verses total. So hymn number 82, Joyful is the Dark. My apologies, as the start of this sermon is going to come off as a bit of a humble brag. In my final year in high school, I competed in a concerto competition. It was a small local affair, and I had learned about it relatively last minute. I didn't even have time, in fact, to mention it to my teacher. But I did have a piece that I was practicing and thought it would be appropriate. So I made my way. This was to the Flint Institute of Music in Michigan. Now, I don't remember much of that performance, except for a mistake that I made early on. And I can't even really recall what the mistake was, except that it was noticeable enough for me to notice it, and to expect as well that the judges had heard this blip too. Now, part of music training involves the capacity to carry on despite mistakes. If something knocks you sideways, you find a way back to the pulse of the music. One acknowledges that all artists hit wrong notes from time to time. Even those most spectacular, grade A performers that you see, they make mistakes too. But they are proficient enough at making mistakes in the correct way that it often goes unnoticed. So my training kicked in and I carried on. But something else happened at that moment. I remember after the mistake, which I think was most likely a wrong note, I heard a voice in my head say, well, there goes the competition. You might as well have a little fun. And in that instant, I could feel my shoulders relax, like we talked about last week. I could feel my posture loosen, and my playing became more free. I took more risks after that mistake, because I reasoned I had already lost. So I could throw caution to the wind and just have an enjoyable performance without having to please the judges. Leah Kemmler has noticed some mistakes in her church as well. In fact, the order of the day felt like one error after another. It's the church where everything goes wrong. There's buzzing microphones, which we've had. There's jammed photocopiers, which we had this morning. There's crying children, of which we all know who's the culprit. And there's the occasional disjointed service. It's a cacophony of mistakes. And yet the worship carries on, and hopefully people feel that sense of connection, not despite of, but perhaps due to these little signs of humanity peeking through the program. And as Reverend Kemmler reflects on these happenings, she has an epiphany as well. These blips, these missteps are what makes the church real. It makes it authentic. It makes it wholesome, in that it conveys the wholeness and the holiness of its participants. Another element in her writing is the love conveyed by the congregation. They are committed to the creation of worship and sharing in that time together. They are passionate about the beauty that they are bringing, even if it is 2 sets of flowers to the altar. But actually, the steadfastness with which they run, the commitment to their responsibility, is a sign of the love that they have for their church and for one another. A love that makes the ragged edge smooth, as she says. We've had a few false starts and missteps, and probably even worse. I've had typos in the order of worship, some a bit too embarrassing to relay from the pulpit. I think that was in my student days, though, so I'm trying to... Some mistakes, of course, need some measure of rectifying, such as ensuring that our sound system is working. But other mistakes, perhaps we could just let them be. Several years ago, we participated, the chapel did, in an interfaith event called Peace and Unity. There were several slip-ups through the afternoon, which was at Jackson's Row Synagogue, and the closing remarks were delivered by the Dean of Manchester Cathedral, Roger Scovender. He praised the mistakes for demonstrating that the event was done out of love rather than professional duty. Everyone there wanted to help out with whatever skill level they had. And this above all perfect things, is where the blessing resides. I hope such mistakes come from a point of love as well, a care for the church that is wrapped up in risk-taking. I won that concerto competition all those years ago. I think partly because the mistake I made led me to play with a greater fullness and authenticity. And so I hope as well that the little slips that happen here are a reminder that, yes, despite our flaws, we are still welcome. Our contributions are still valued, and acknowledging the blips allows us to live with a greater calmness, a restfulness, and more at ease with ourselves. If the church isn't a place for people to make mistakes, then where is? In fact, some might argue that it is only when we admit to these little foibles in life that we can get close to the divine, whatever we consider it to be. I quoted James Martineau last week at our introductory course. The incarnation is real, not of Christ exclusively, but man universally and God everlastingly. Historic language aside. If we all have a chance to be in touch with that oneness of God, perhaps it comes in the recognition that we make mistakes. We perceive ourselves to be flawed and therefore can live more fully with ourselves. As we have our annual general meeting, it was my intention to not be so verbose in my sermon today. So I'll conclude with a reminder from Martin Luther that we sin boldly. Sin boldly. Make our mistakes, because they will happen, and if we carry on in spite of them, then we will find our lives the richer for them. May this church be a place for mistakes, for people to be risk takers, to feel at one with themselves. This is my hope for the next year. Amen. A few notices before we conclude our service. If you're in need of pastoral care, please speak with me, or if you're online, you can write to minister@crossstreetchapel.org.uk. We have a sign-up sheet if you wish to participate in the chapel and its greeting and its readings, providing the tea and coffee and so forth. And as I mentioned, we'll have tea and coffee, but we also have an AGM after the service. Do we have anyone to assist with the tea and coffee today? Thank you, Adam. We are grateful for any donations that can assist the mission of our chapel. You're able to donate online at tinyurl.com/crossstreetdonate, or you can email me about setting up a standing order. If you're here in person, we have a retiring collection along with envelopes if you're a UK taxpayer for gift aid. And you can, if you wish, become a member of our sort of envelope scheme where you receive a booklet of envelopes. You can contribute on a weekly basis. Next Friday, the 25th, is our Friday lunchtime recital at 1 p.m. And there's some notices on the back of the order of worship, if you wish to turn to those, featuring Alessandra Pompili on piano. She's played for us before. She's absolutely fantastic. It's a free recital, so please do come. We're grateful for any donations which go to the artist to recognize the hard work and talent that they bring to us. And we're grateful for that gift that they bring. Are there any other, I feel like there are a couple other notices that have slightly slipped my mind. I'm sure they'll be covered at the AGM nevertheless. So let us then sing our final hymn. Oh yes, I remember, before we sing our final hymn. Yes. We needed a mistake. Please do come to the next 3 services, and I do implore you, because we are auditioning for a new Sunday pianist. We have 3 candidates, and they're going to take one service after another. So this is the next week, the 27th, the 3rd of April, and the 10th of April. So please do come to those services. It's a great chance to hear a variety of styles, to let your views be known on what you want from the music, as well as how you feel that individual did on that week, and just a chance to meet them and have a chat during the tea and coffee. So please do, if you can, make it to the next several services for that purpose, if not for the purpose of joining as a community and worshiping the divine, which is important too. So let us now sing our final hymn, number 124, one more step, hymn number 124. Thank you, Catherine, for the music. We thank Anna for the flowers. We thank Sonia for greeting, William for the tea and coffee, and William for the IT, and Adam for the tea and coffee, and everyone who has brought food for our bring and share meal. And thank you to all of you for creating and sharing worship today. We close with the words of James Curtis. I wish for you, all around you, people who love easily and forgive quickly, whose eyes are stars when you are night, whose voices are trumpets when you are silence. I wish for you people about you who are gifts in themselves, and whose presence in your life is an all year round present. Amen. Amen.